സോ കഴിഞ്ഞ ക്ലാസ്സിൽ നമ്മൾ റൈറ്റിംഗ് ടാസ്ക് വണ്ണിൻ്റെ ബേസിക് ഫോർമാറ്റ് അതുപോലെ അതിൻ്റെ സ്ട്രക്ചർ ഇതൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്തിരുന്നു. നമ്മൾ എക്സാമ്പിൾസ് വെച്ചിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നില്ല, അതിൻ്റെ ജനറൽ ആയിട്ടുള്ള സെൻറ്റൻസ് സ്ട്രക്ചേഴ്സ് അതിൻ്റെ പാറ്റേൺ ഒക്കെയാണ് പറഞ്ഞത്. ഇന്ന് നമുക്കതിൻ്റെ ഓരോരോ എക്സാമ്പിൾ എടുത്തിട്ട് കാണാം. ഫസ്റ്റ് നമുക്ക് മാപ്പ് ചെയ്യാം. See, look at this map. I'll give you some time to observe it. Observe it carefully. സോ ഒരു ടാസ്ക് വൺ കിട്ടിക്കഴിഞ്ഞ് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഫസ്റ്റ് തിങ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് നന്നായി ഒബ്സർവ് ചെയ്യുക എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. സോ ദ മാപ്പ് ഷോസ് ദ കമ്പാരിസൺ ഓഫ് ദ ചേഞ്ചസ് ഇൻ ദ ലൈബ്രറി ബിഫോർ ആൻഡ് ആഫ്റ്റർ 5 years. ഏത് ടാസ്ക് വൺ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യനിലും ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു ബാക്ക്ഗ്രൗണ്ട് ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ തന്നിട്ടുണ്ടായിരിക്കും. ഇതാണ് നമ്മൾ ഫസ്റ്റ് പാരഗ്രാഫിൽ പാരഫ്രൈസ് ചെയ്ത് എഴുതാൻ പോകുന്ന ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ. അതിനുശേഷം ഇതിൻ്റെ സ്ട്രൈക്കിംഗ് ഫീച്ചേഴ്സ് എന്താണെന്ന് ഒറ്റ നോട്ടത്തിൽ നോക്കുമ്പോൾ മനസ്സിലാവുന്ന എന്തൊക്കെയാണ്, കുറേ ചേഞ്ചസ് വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഓക്കെ, പിന്നെ ചേഞ്ചസ് എന്തൊക്കെയാണ്, സെക്ഷൻസിൻ്റെ നമ്പർ കൂടിയിട്ടുണ്ട്, അതുപോലെ കമ്പ്യൂട്ടേഴ്സ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഒരു പുതിയ സെക്ഷൻ ഇൻട്രൊഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്, ന്യൂസ് പേപ്പേഴ്സ്, പീരിയോഡിക്കൽസ്, ഫിലിംസ് ആൻഡ് DVDs വെച്ച് റീപ്ലേസ് ചെയ്തു, ടേബിൾസ് കുറേ കൂടെ ലെങ്തിയർ ടേബിൾസായി, സ്മോൾ ടേബിൾസിന് പകരം ചിൽഡ്രൻസ് ഏരിയ ഇൻട്രൊഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്തു. അങ്ങനെ കുറേ ചേഞ്ചസ് വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട് അല്ലേ. നമുക്ക് ഇനി എങ്ങനെയാണ് എഴുതേണ്ടതെന്ന് നോക്കാം. ഫസ്റ്റ് നമ്മൾ എത്ര പാരഗ്രാഫ് എഴുതണമെന്നാണ് പറഞ്ഞത്? 4 paragraphs. ഇൻട്രൊഡക്ഷൻ, ഓവറോൾ പാര, ബോഡി പാര 1, ബോഡി പാര 2. നമ്മൾ എന്ത് ചെയ്യും, ഇൻട്രൊഡക്ഷനിൽ നമ്മൾ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ലൈനിനെ പാരാഫ്രൈസ് ചെയ്യും, ഈ ലൈനിന് പാരാഫ്രൈസ് ചെയ്ത് എഴുതും. ഓവറോൾ നമ്മൾ 2 or 3 സ്ട്രൈക്കിംഗ് ഫീച്ചേഴ്സാണ് എഴുതാൻ പോകുന്നത്. പിന്നെ ബോഡി പാര 1 നമുക്ക് ബിഫോറുള്ള ലൈബ്രറീനെ ഡിസ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്യാം, ബോഡി പാര 2 ആഫ്റ്ററുള്ള ലൈബ്രറീനെ ഡിസ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്യാം. ഇങ്ങനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ ഓർഗനൈസ് ചെയ്യാൻ പോകുന്നത്. ഇനി ഇൻട്രൊഡക്ഷൻ എന്ത് ചെയ്യാം, ദ ഗിവൺ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് വേണം സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ. നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞായിരുന്നു ദ ഗിവൺ മാപ്പ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പിക്ടോറിയൽ റെപ്രസെൻറ്റേഷൻ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇല്ലസ്ട്രേഷൻ, അങ്ങനെ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു വാക്ക് ഇടാം. ദ ഗിവൺ മാപ്പ് ഷോസ് എന്ന് ഇവിടെ ഉണ്ട് അല്ലേ, അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് വേറെ എന്തെങ്കിലും യൂസ് ചെയ്യാം. ഡിസ്ക്രൈബ്സ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ദ ഗിവൺ മാപ്പ് ഇല്ലസ്ട്രേറ്റ്സ് the comparison of changes in the library. അതിന് പകരം എന്ത് യൂസ് ചെയ്യാം, the transformation that happened to a library before and after a span of 5 years, or the given map illustrates the transformation that happened in a library within a span of 5 years. നമ്മുടെ introduction. Now overall para, overall നമ്മൾ എന്ത് എഴുതും, overall it can be seen that എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് തന്നെ ആ പാരഗ്രാഫ് സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യണം. Overall it can be seen that there has been a number of changes in the interior of the library. Then lot of new genres of books have been introduced. പുതിയ കുറേ കാറ്റഗറീസ് ഇൻട്രൊഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. A space has been allotted for computers and the tables have become larger. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഏതെങ്കിലും 1-2 എണ്ണം എടുത്ത് പറയാം. And children's area has also been set aside inside the library. Okay, so ഒന്നും കൂടി പറയാം. Overall it can be seen that there has been a number of changes in the interior of the library. Lot of new genres of books have been introduced along with establishment of children's area and computer section. This is your overall para. Next parയിൽ ഇതാണ് നമ്മൾ ഡിസ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്യാൻ പോകുന്നത്, അതായത് before 5 years library had fewer categories of books which included self-help, history and fiction books that were placed along the west and this will be the north side of the library, northern end of the library. In the middle there were tables for people to sit and read. Next to it, or just adjacent to it, there was periodicals and newspaper section, which is a long rack. Librarian's desk was next to the entrance, and stairs to the upper floors were just near it, to the left. Okay, this is your explanation for before. Next paragraph, we will we'll say about after, what happened after 5 years. After 5 years, several new type of several changes could be seen inside the library. While librarian's desk and the stairs remained unchanged, and entrance librarian's desk and the stairs remained unchanged, rest of the portion had drastic renovation or drastic modifications. Just behind the stairs, computers were introduced, perhaps to allow computers were introduced. Then newspapers, and the long rack of newspapers and periodical section is now replaced for films and DVDs, suggesting that the library has been modernized. A children's area has also been facilitated inside the library, just behind the tables, which has now been enlarged, or which has now been replaced by longer ones. Behind the children's area, we have the children's books. Along the western side of the library, which only had history and self-help books before, there are history, fiction, self-help, kitchen, economics and law books in that order. Okay, so this is your entire map description. I will show you a sample written by me. Yeah, read this. The given map illustrates the transformation of a library in 5 years. Overall, several notable changes are conspicuous means clear in the library, which include the introduction of computers, films and DVDs. Initially, library had only few genres of books, namely self-help, history and fiction. While self-help and history books were placed along the west end of the library, fiction books were along the northern side. In the center of the library, there were small square-shaped tables. Along newspaper and periodical section can be seen adjacent to it. Librarian's desk was near the entrance, and stairs were in the bottom right corner. After 5 years, although the front area of the library containing entrance, librarian's desk and the stairs remained the same, other portions had significant changes. One could see long rectangular table instead of the old ones, and the newspaper and periodical section beside it was replaced with the section for films and DVDs. In addition, many new genres of books such as kitchen, economics, law were introduced in the western racks along with the previous ones. The northern area just beyond the table was set aside as children's area, and the rack just behind was allotted for children's books. Another new introduction to the library was the two computers positioned just behind the stairs. Okay, let's go for a process diagram now. Yeah, So this is my process diagram. You first observe the diagram carefully. Diagram below shows one method of manufacturing ceramic pots. You can see here raw materials. It is taken by trucks, that is raw material is mud, taken through trucks to factories where it is first crushed, then mixed with water, put in molds, dried for 4 to 6 hours, and then assembled together to make clay pots. Then it is kept in oven at 1000 degrees Celsius. Then it is given color. Color firing is done using another oven, and finally you get the finished product pots. Okay, how can you write this now? Again we need how many paragraph? Introduction paragraph, overall para, and the body para. Here since it is process diagram, we can put it in one para. If you have a very detailed process, you can make it 2 paragraph, otherwise 1 para is also okay. Okay, but overall you should have 150 words. Even if you write 1 para, you should have 150 words. Okay, introduction. The given, again it starts with the given. The given diagram, so that is process diagram, illustrates a way of making ceramic pots. The given diagram illustrates a way of making ceramic pots. I just paraphrased it. Now overall what all things can I say in process diagram? Number of steps, duration of steps, it is not given, so we can skip that. Then important step, first step, last step, then whether it is simple or complex process, whether it is artificial or natural process, these are the things to be done. Okay, so overall it can be seen that how many steps are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 steps are there. Overall we can see that there are 11 steps involved in the process, which starts with the collection of raw materials, that is mud. The most important step is drying. However, the process starts with crushing the mud and ends with color firing. It is a complex artificial process. These things you can write in the overall para. Next, you describe the process one by one using sequencing words such as initially or firstly, then then after that, afterwards, in the next stage, subsequently, later on, and so on. Okay, these are the steps. So initially, raw material which is mud is dug from the ground using a JCB. It is then taken to the factories through trucks. After that, in the factory, it undergoes crushing process inside the machines where larger particles are converted to smaller particles. After the crushing, the mud particles are mixed in water to make it a paste. This paste is poured into the molds using a pipe that connects both these sections. Inside the molds, it is allowed to dry for 4 to 6 hours. Subsequently, they are taken out and assembled as clay pots. Later, these clay pots are kept in oven at 1000 degrees Celsius. In the next stage, it is given color by dipping in a bucket of colored mixture. Once after dipping, the pot is again kept in oven for color firing. Thus, we get the finished product in the final stage. This is your process description. Let's see a sample. The given process diagram illustrates various methods involved in the preparation of ceramic pots. Overall, it is conspicuous that there are roughly 10 steps in the process of making pots. It is a complex artificial process that begins with digging clay and ends in finished products. The main stages are crushing, mixing, drying, and color firing. The raw material required for the process is clay. Initially, clay is dug from earth using diggers and is then transported in large trucks to the factory location. There, the bigger particles are crushed to finer particles using a machine, after which these particles are mixed with water. Subsequently, they are put in a mold to give shape and is dried for 4 to 6 hours. Later, molds are opened and clay pots are assembled. The clay pots so obtained are then placed in an oven and heated to 1000 degrees Celsius, by which it would attain the desired strength. Thereafter, the pigmenting process takes place. The pots are first dipped in a bucket of colored solution, followed by color firing process. Once the color firing is done, the pots are ready for sale in the market. Okay. Next, you should understand the process carefully. The process should not go wrong. Okay, and also you should go in the direction of the arrows. See, the direction of arrows is like this. If you go like this, every time it will go wrong. Go in the direction of arrows. Okay. Next, we can see a pie diagram. Observe the pie diagram. The 3 pie charts show different accommodation choices by holiday makers in 3 years: 1965, 1985 and 2005. Okay. See. Accommodation choices are given here: staying with friends and relatives, hotel, camping and caravans. So 1965, which is more staying with friends and relatives. As the years passed, the proportion became less. Then hotels. After second largest was hotel in 1965, its proportion began to increase over time. Camping was the third largest. That there was fluctuations. First it increased, then decreased. Caravans, again same pattern. First it decreased, then increased. Actually it doubled from 1985 to 2005. Okay, these are your observations. Now you can start writing. Intro. The given pie graphs or pie charts depicts the 4 kind of choices made by holiday makers for stay in the years 1965, 1985 and 2005. I just paraphrased it. Next, overall it can be seen that what are your major observations? The preference for staying with friends and family decreased over time, while that for while the popularity of staying in hotel increased. It could also be it is also noteworthy that caravans became more common, staying in caravans became more common in 2005 in the final year, unlike camping, which actually declined its declined as a choice. Okay, so 2 or 3 sentences in overall para. Now we can start the body para. How will you divide? You can talk about staying with friends and hotel in one, and camping and caravans in another. So first give the signal expression. With respect to the data for staying with friends and relatives, it is crystal clear that this option was the most favorite for more than half of the touristers in the year 1965. However, there was a dramatic drop in its preference by the year 1985, which it further dipped in 2005 to settle at 30%. In the case of hotels, it started off at 16%, being the second highest choice in 1965, but had a phenomenal increase to 38% by the year 2005. A marked increase could be observed from the year 1965 to 1985 for this sector. Okay, next para. In regards to camping, or with regards to camping, it could be stated, it can be deduced that there were fluctuations over the time. Initially, although it increased by 3% in the 3% initially from 15%. Later it declined, or you can say it went down to 12%, occupying the least position in the year 2005. Moving on to caravans, it is caravans. It is caravans which had a dip in its usage from 1965 to 1985. Moving on to caravans which had a dip in its preference from 1965 to 1985. It could be clearly stated that by the year 2005, uh, a fifth, 20% is a fifth. A fifth of the holiday makers used caravans for their stay. Or you can say it is surprising to note that by the year 2005, a fifth of the holiday makers used caravans for their stay. Okay, so moving on to caravans. From 1965 to 1985, there was a marginal decrease. However, it is surprising to note that, however, or so you can say how surprisingly, there was surprisingly the figures doubled and reached a fifth of the total in the year 2005. Okay, you have different ways to write the same thing. Let's read the sample. The given pie charts illustrates choice of stay preferred by holiday makers in 3 years, 1965, 85 and 2005. Overall, it is conspicuous that lesser number of people preferred to stay with friends and relatives and more were inclined to hotel accommodation over the course of the given period. While camping became a less attractive option for holiday makers, caravans increased in popularity. In 1965, more than half of the travelers opted staying with friends and relatives, whereas the proportion of people choosing hotels, camping and caravans were nearly equal at around 15% each. Here they have classified according to the year, not according to the type of stay. We classified it according to the type of stay. By 1985, number of people choosing to stay in hotel accelerated to 37%, making it the most preferred one over staying with relatives and friends, which now had 35%. Camping saw a slight increase while caravans had the opposite trend. In 2005, there were not any significant changes in those resided in hotels. Surprisingly, holiday makers willing to stay in friends and relatives' houses further dropped to reach 30%. A dramatic surge could be noticed in the caravan users as it accounted for nearly 1/5 of the total holiday makers. Only a negligible 12% opted for camping. Okay. Next is bar graph. Okay, go through the graph. The chart below shows the number of jobs in tourism related industries in one UK city between 1989 and 2009. Tourism related industries, they have given restaurants, hotels, sports and leisure, travel and tours. In each they have given the figures on the y-axis, and it is classified according to years. There are lot of information. There is lot of information which you need to organize and write. Okay. So how do you observe it? Restaurants usage, it increased, and in the last year it decreased. Hotels peaked in the year 1995, 1994. All other years it was less, but it hovered around the same value. There weren't any significant changes. Sports and leisure peaked in the year 1999. Travel and tours, but it was less. Sports and leisure peaked in the year 1999, but it was lesser than the other two in most of the years. Then travel and tours, yeah, it also peaked in the year 1994, but it was less in almost all other years. Okay, now we can start. The given bar graph delineates means describes the jobs generated in several tourism related industries such as restaurants, hotels, sports and leisure and travel and tourism sectors in a UK city during the years from 1989 to 2009. Okay. Next, overall. Overall, in most of the years, the highest number of jobs were offered by restaurants and the lowest was seen in travel and tours. Travel and tours. While there are changes, while hotel jobs peaked in the year 1994, jobs in sports and leisure facilities were the highest in the year 1999. Comparison should be possible in all angles, all respect. Okay. Now, first paragraph, how will you divide body para 1 and 2? You can talk about restaurant and hotels in one and sports and leisure and travel and tours in another. Or you can even classify according to the year, but let's go with this one, first one. So, in the case of restaurants, it had about 1,100 jobs to offer in 1989, which climbed until the year 2004 to reach 1,600. Thereafter, it bounced back to its figures in 1994. Okay. In the case of hotels, whereas in the case on the other hand, in the case of hotels, there weren't any significant changes between the numbers in different years. Although the peak was observed in the year 1994 with at 1,400. Next paragraph. Coming to sports and leisure, it bottomed out in the year 1994 at 600 with merely 600 job offers. With 600 job offers, but in all other years it was the third highest sector offering jobs to the people. The least job openings were in the travel and tour sector. It could surpass the sports and leisure sector only in the year 1994, or you can say the least job openings were in the travel and tour sector except in the year 1994. It is surprising to note that except for the year 1994, the order of highest openings to the lowest openings it is also surprising to note that except for the year 1994, the pattern of the positions of job openings in each sector remained the same. In the first position was retained by restaurants, second by hotels, third by sports and leisure, and fourth by travel and tourism industry. Yeah, so that will do. Let's read what has been given in the answer. The given bar graph depicts the number of jobs available in tourism related sectors in a UK city in 5 different years from 1989. Overall, it is conspicuous that the highest number of jobs were in restaurants in all years and the least was in travel and tour sector except 1994. Surprisingly, the jobs available in restaurants, hotels, sports and leisure and travel and tour sectors were in descending order in all the years except 1994. Like you see, everything is descending in descending order except in 1994. Over the years, the availability of jobs in restaurants saw a steady upward trend from 1,100 in 1989 till 2004, after which it declined to 1,300. Hotels, on the other hand, had an initial surge in 1994 to peak at 1,400. However, thereafter it kept plummeting to settle at 1,100 in the final year. While vacancies in sports and leisure sector started off at 900, it dropped to 700 in 1994, only to rise further and peak in 1999 at 1,100. Following that, it experienced a continuous fall. As regards travel and tourist department, the overall trend was like that of hotels. After an initial increase in 1994, the figures went down to 300 in 2009. Okay. Let's go for the next one, which is line graph. The graph below shows the percentage of Australians that exported to 4 countries from 1990 to percentage of Australian export. Okay. This is correct. The percentage of Australian export to 4 countries from 1990 to 2012. Japan, US, China and India. Okay. So this one is Japan, this is US, this is China and this is India. From 1990 to 2012. So these are all, they have told it is percentage. So this is in percentage. We can say the introduction. The given graph depicts the proportion of exports to countries like Japan, US, China and India from Australia. Next para, overall it is evident that what is obvious here? Overall it is evident that exports to Japan declined while that to China increased dramatically. US and India had fluctuations over the time period. However, they settled at almost the same value in the year 2012. This is your overall para. Now, body para 1, how can you divide this 2 in one para, these 2 in another para? Australian exports to Japan was the highest in the year 1990, accounting for 25% of a quarter of the total exports. It is surprisingly this proportion decreased exponentially over the time until 2012 to settle at nearly 15 or you can say 16%. Coming to US, which was the second highest country to which exports were made from Australia in the year 1990, bracket you can say 10%. There were wild fluctuations, but the overall trend was decreasing. In the year of 2012, exports settled at 7%. A marked increase could next paragraph, okay. A marked increase could be observed in the exports to China, which the exponential rise from 1990 to 2010 suggests this, after which there was a linear increase until 2012, where it surpassed all the countries and reached 27%. India, on the other hand, started off at the least and still retained the least position in 2012. Although initially it grew until 2010 to peak at 7%, there was a marginal decline until 2012, and finally it culminated at 6%. Yeah, that will do. Let's do the one written here. The given line graph delineates the export percentage to different countries, namely Japan, US, China and India, from Australia. Overall, it is conspicuous that exports to Japan had exponentially decreased over time, although it had the highest proportion in the initial years. Surprisingly, proportion of goods exported to China rose dramatically from a minimum value to occupy the highest position in the final years. In 1990, nearly 25% of exports were to Japan, and it was the highest among all. The figures for US, which was the second highest, was far behind that of Japan, accounting for 10% of the exports. Only a nominal amount of goods was sent to China and India. Over the years, exports to Japan declined to touch here. What is the pattern they have chosen? 1990s figures, all they have compared. They are each one's position and the figures. That is done in this paragraph. Then next paragraph, over the years what happened for each, and then the final value is written. Over the years, exports to Japan declined to touch 17% in 2012. Export to US peaked in the year 2000 after minor fluctuations, and it settled at 5% in 2012. The overall trend being negative. China's percentage soared, and it surpassed that of US and Japan in 2000 and 2005 respectively. In 2012, China had the biggest proportion of exports from Australia. In the case of India, export percentage remained unchanged until 2000, after which it grew moderately to peak in 2010 and closed at nearly the same value as that of US. Okay, so it is this is the overall pattern in which you are writing the line graph. The next three, there are three more to be discussed. One is table, then combinations and future denoting graphs. We will discuss that in the next session. Okay. Thank you for now. Thank you for watching. Bye.